What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and as you can see by our field here, we are bringing you Tenpai Dragons. Today is going to be the deck profile, and tomorrow is going to be the combo tutorial, so make sure you are ready for that, but let's go ahead and jump on in. Kicking things off, the Tenpai Dragon lineup is pretty standard across the board, so we are just following suit. We have 3 copies of Tenpai Dragon Pydra, 3 copies of Chundra, and 2 copies of Fadra. Now, the reason for these ratios, obviously we have the Pydra, which is the best normal summon, being able to search for either your field spell or your quick play, both of which are very integral to the strategy, as well as the fact that it can actually set either of those as well, meaning that you can actually set your field spell during your battle phase, which will allow you to then pop off with something like Trident Dragon, to then double the attack when it's destroyed and gain multiple attacks and just let you go for massive amounts of damage. The Chundra obviously is not only the extender by being able to summon itself, but also an extender in the ability to be able to summon out one of your Tenpais during the damage step when it battles. And then the Fadra, which is the lesser of them, but still very important, so saying lesser is a little bit unfair to it, but it is very dependent on you having a Tenpai Dragon already set up in your graveyard, which is why we are not maxing out on it, but those are the standard ratios. There is one more fire dragon that we need to talk about, and that is going to be Blaster Dragon Ruler of Infernos. Now, I do want to preface it that this card is entirely optional. This is just a card that I personally really like because of the synergies with the deck, but it is also a very strong card going second because it is able to discard itself with a fire monster to destroy a card. So that allows you to get rid of some problematic cards. Since this is a blind going second deck, you can out a Floodgate, you can out a problematic monster. There's just so much utility for that destruction, not to mention it is also just an extender, being able to summon itself from hand or graveyard by banishing 2 fires and or dragons, so you'll always be able to recur it as well, which is incredibly strong. There is one more dragon in the deck, albeit not fire. That is going to be the Bestial Magnamut, and the reason for this is twofold. Obviously, yes, it is a hand trap, although it is limited to light and dark monsters, but more importantly, one really cool thing that you can do with this card is summon it off of the Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, which when you tribute it, summons one from deck. You can go ahead and summon out the Magnamut, and then the Magnamut will activate to allow you to search any dragon during your end phase, meaning that you can just get your engine and be able to play completely for free. Then we are kicking things off with our non-dragons. We have 3 copies of Kashtira Fenrir. Being a blind going second deck, this is an incredible card to just slap onto your board when you're starting off your play. Not only does it act as an interruption, but it is also an out to some very problematic cards. The best case scenario that I can think of is the fact that this is a 1 card out to a 4 material Appaloosa. But it does have some alternative synergy as well, because the field spell for this deck requires a discard. You can obviously go ahead and use the effect of Fenrir to search another copy of itself, allowing you to have essentially a free discard for the field spell. I just think it's a very, very strong option. Now, the remainder of the monsters in the deck are going to be hand traps. We have 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just the generically best hand trap. Every single deck is going to be able to be hit by Ash Blossom. We have 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is a card that comes in and out of formats, and right now it is definitely in. Not only does it just absolutely ruin opposing Tenpais as well, but it's pretty good into some of the other matchups as well. We have our 3 copies of Effect Veiler, because Effect Negation is just really strong. We are still in a Snake Eye Fire King format, so being able to just pop off by negating their effects usually is a 2-for-1, because again, if you use like the Effect Veiler or an Infinite Impermanence on something like Snake Eye Ash, then you're getting 2 effects for the price of 1 Effect Veiler, 1 Imperm. They no longer get the search on summon, and they can no longer use the effect to summon from deck. Just very, very strong. Onto the spells, we have 3 copies of Songen Summoning. This is really just a cracked card. Imagine they took the effect of Miscellaneous Source and also made it a Rhoda. I mean, technically Miscellaneous Source is kind of a Rhoda, but it's limited to what you can banish. This will just search you on activation, which is incredible. And then of course for the remainder of your main phase, your fire dragons are unaffected by your opponent's monster effects. You can't be Nibiru, you can't be Effect Veiler, you can't be Ash Blossomed. Really insanely strong. And then we have our Songen Kaiman as well. This is essentially a Rhoda / E-Telly for the deck. On activation, it will add one of your Tenpai dragons, but if you, or on activation as well, summon one from hand. Or if you activate it in battle phase, you can do both in sequence, meaning you can actually just add one and then immediately summon the one that you add, which is just ridiculous. Then, because again we are a blind second, we have 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This is one of the best cards in a blind second deck because it still serves a good amount of utility if you are forced to go first. Being a quick play spell, you're able to just set it face down and then use it against your opponent on their turn. Or if you're going second, you just turn off their board and lower their attack by half, and then just swing for massive amounts of damage. Not that that matters, because this deck has a 30,000 damage attack combo, which I will show you guys in the video tomorrow, so again, make sure you are staying tuned for that. But yeah, just an incredible going second card. We then have our consistency with Pot of Prosperity, and you might be thinking, why are you playing Pot of Prosperity in a deck that is trying to just go second in OTK? Well, refer to what I just said previously about a 30,000 damage combo. So even if you Pot of Prosperity, you are dealing 15,000 damage with the damage being halved from that 30k, meaning that's still almost 2 full games of life points. So the Pot of Prosperity's hindrance does not matter for this deck. It is ridiculous. And then we have our 2 copies of Lightning Storm and 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. This is just pretty much standard if you are going second. You're probably siding these in if you are playing a going first deck and you know you're going to be going second. So when you're going second, you might as well just main them as well, because what I like about going second decks is that unless you're up against another going second deck, you always win the dice roll, because if you win the dice roll, you choose second. If you lose the dice roll, your opponent chooses first, meaning you go second. Really just incredible strategy. Hasn't really been viable for a long time, but this deck is making it viable, and I'm a big fan of just Oonga Boonga Caveman swing for lots of damage. Love this deck. Then we have our 1 copy of Necro Valley. This is part of a combo when you are forced to go first, which again, I will show you guys in the combo video tomorrow. And then of course we have our 1 copy of Terraforming, because we want to be able to get our Sengen Summoning. And then finishing up the deck, we have 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Again, just a really good hand trap for the deck since we are blind going second. That's the main deck at 42 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. And although it is not Tenpai, we are still in a fire format, so what are you guys waiting for? We have the popular Monster Metal Field Centers available for sale on my website, insanetcg.com. They are incredible quality, they are very solid, very nice, and obviously the art is beautiful. I mean, look at that, we have Diabellstar and Poplar. What more can you want? If you want to pick up your Metal Field Center now, go to insanetcg.com, link in the description down below. Now, the extra deck in Tenpai Dragon is relatively straightforward. There are some things that you obviously just have to play for the strategy, and then there are some things that are tech choices, and you might see some differing builds, but I'll go over why I chose what I chose. There are a ton of different options. Level 7 Dragon Synchros are plentiful, to say the least, so it's really strong, but we'll show you guys what we have. For the Tenpai one specifically, we have the Sangenpai Bident Dragion and the Transcendent Dragion. These are really strong. The Bident Dragion is able to reborn one on summon, and then they also both have the effects of you are able to summon them back from the graveyard if you have done 3 or more attacks that turn as a quick effect, so you're just able to pretty much swing with everything, sync quick with the effects of the main deck monsters, swing more, go ahead and resummon them back, swing more, and it's just ridiculous. Not to mention that the Transcendent actually puts things into attack position, so your opponent isn't even allowed to play defensively. And then the honorary Tenpai Dragon, of course, is the Trident Dragion. This card is just insane for the deck, being able to swing up to 3 times a turn, potentially at 6,000 attack. So by itself, this card can potentially deal 18,000 damage to your opponent, which again is already enough on its own to kill through something like Pot of Prosperity. So definitely a very strong card. Now, Technically speaking, this card is not mandatory. A lot of people have been showing you guys how you can play without this card, and that is of course because this card has a hefty price tag, being a card that has not received any form of reprint in over 10 years. Yeah, it's just kind of hard to get your hands on. Thankfully, I did have one because I was playing it in Degenerate Things 10 years ago, but I do fully believe that this card is going to be receiving a reprint relatively soon, probably in an OTS, or even maybe hopefully in the upcoming Rarity Collection, since we still don't have a full card list, so only time will tell, but I definitely think that this is, again, not mandatory, but the best and preferred way to play. Then, of course, we have our Ancient Fairy Dragon and our Black Rose Dragon. These cards are just incredible. Ancient Fairy Dragon is part of your going first combo, being able to set up a Necro Valley as well as special summon one of your Tenpais from your hand, making it a little bit easier to just do some shenanigans. And then Black Rose is a Fire Dragon, meaning that it is able to not be affected when we have the field spell up, which is incredible because you are able to just wipe your opponent's board and they really can't even do anything to contest it. And then it's just really funny because you're able to just play again. Like, you can just go, cool, I wipe the board, enter battle, activate Kaiman, effective Kaiman to add, summon, effect keep going, and it's just ridiculous. Then we have our Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, just generic level 7, really good, just bounce a card. We have our Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. Again, this is a fire dragon, so it synergizes with the archetype, but more importantly, it prevents your opponent from activating things in the battle phase. So we already have the field spell preventing them from doing anything to us during the main phase. Then we can go ahead and summon this, preventing them from doing anything to us in the battle phase, which will more often than not just completely lock up the game. We have our one copy of Crystal Wing, and you might be asking, how are we making the Crystal Wing in this deck? Well, we are actually making it with Ultimaya Zulkin. So the Bident Dragon is a level 7 tuner, and we have the Ancient Fairy Dragon as a level 7, so we can go into the Ultimaya Zulkin after we have searched for our additional field spell in Necro Valley, set the Necro Valley face down onto our field, summon out the Crystal Wing off of the Zulkin, and then we can have the Necro Valley as well for an additional interruption. But because the Zulkin is also a dragon, if you have any other dragon on your field, you turn the Zulkin and whatever other dragon you have into the Heavenly Spheres, acting as an additional interruption and guaranteed follow-up. The Heavenly Spheres is really cool because it's able to tribute itself to bounce any card, and when you do that, or rather any time that it's tributed, it will also allow you to summon a dragon from the deck. Now, there are multiple things you can do with this. You can go for something like your Fadra from your deck, which will then resummon something like the Chundra or the Pydra, depending on what you have in grave. And then if it's your opponent's turn and they're still able to play, during their battle phase, you can go ahead and use those Tenpai dragons that you now have to quick synchro into a Black Rose and wipe their board, or if they're really not able to play past the interruptions you have, like I mentioned in the main deck, you can go ahead and summon out the Magnamut. Magnamut during the end phase will search either your Fadra or your Pydra, whatever it is you need to be able to play, guaranteeing that you can play the game. And to finish off the extra deck, we have an OTK line for if we get debarriered. Since this is a fire deck, that means we are able to play the fire OTK using the copy of Hida in tandem with the Promethean Princess, Raging Phoenix, and Zealantis, so even if your opponent does something like debarrier you, you are able to still go for the OTK, which is just incredible. And there you guys have it. That is going to be my Tenpai Dragon deck profile. Do not forget that tomorrow I will be uploading the combo tutorial for this deck, so if you want to know how this deck can OTK for 30,000 damage, or if you want to know what to do when you are stuck going first, make sure that you are ready for that. So you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends. As always, don't forget to check out the channel sponsor Dueling Guard using code INSANE18 or my link in the description down below. You can get 5% off your entire order, and of course it helps to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.